Master Reddit, subscribe for more videos.
What secret have you and your sibling managed to keep from your parents? That my sister got arrested in college for stealing hay to spread around a friend's yard as a hardy duck. Had to find an adult who knew how to bail her out. I was 17, then wait for hours just to drive her drunk ass back to the dorms. Her punishment from the judge was to volunteer at a local barn shoveling hay and horse poops around. Identical twin here. They think I'm the other one. What if they mixed you up as small children and you really are the other one? Some of my best friends are identical twins and they asked their mom this question. She just got really angry at them and told them to never ask her that again. So it's possible. I was only about 9 to 10. When my older brother would get home from high school, he would constantly ring the doorbell for me to open the door. He has his own keys, but he just kept ringing. It annoyed me almost every day. One day I start yelling out to open it himself. He kicks the window by the door, it shatters and a tiny shard cuts my foot. No big deal, just a band-aid fix. We call mom and dad saying someone threw a rock, and my brother even found a rock outside as evidence. Mom and dad call the police later. When they get home, police arrive, there's a full report done. And my brother and I have never mentioned the story again. I'm glad that it wasn't some hardcore detective shit, where he asked how I injured my foot. Oh, and another story. I was still in primary school and I had a day off school. So I was home with dad and he was pretty much asleep most of the day from night shift. I go to open the curtains and my brother, who is supposed to be at high school, is sitting behind the couch with a few magazines to keep him occupied for a whole day. He says don't tell dad, and dad never found out. For some dumb reason my parents' high school reunion was in January in Ohio. They decided to get a hotel closer to the event space since we lived in a rural area, leaving the kids alone in the house. Naturally we threw a giant ass party. Everything seemed to be fine around 3 a.m. after cleaning up, but we noticed that people had parked on the grass, leaving tire tracks all over the lawn. We were totally fucked. The next morning we woke up and were blessed to find a full blanket of snow covering everything in sight. It stayed on the ground for ample enough time that the tracks became totally unnoticeable. Parents still don't know 19 years later. My husband tells a story about his parents going out of town and him throwing a huge party while they were gone. He had left a joint and a box of matches on the mantle of the fireplace and forgot about it. His dad was an ATF agent, and one night his dad asked him to come out of his room and get him a match so he could light a fire. He says he still doesn't know if his old man knew there was a joint in there, and he just wanted to let him know he knew about it. When we were in middle/high school, my younger brother used to get in trouble at school a lot. Whenever the school called our house to inform my parents, I would answer the phone and pretend to be my dad. That we didn't accidentally order the pay-per-view porn. Edit, it's possible they knew this. Haha, I did the same. For some reason thought that they wouldn't notice the extra $10 on the cable bill. Dad was prob like that's my boy. I took care of some minor debt he had with some shady drug dealer that had him in trouble. He died last month, unrelated, and took it to the grave. There's no point telling them now, so I will too. We tore up a couch with a knife and blamed it on the dog. Was there a reason, or did that couch just look like it needed to be shagged? Dear Mom, you weren't so tired from wrapping Christmas presents that you put them in the wrong stockings. Me and Robert bartered the size and shape of them in the morning before you got up. Sorry 20. Better take that one to the grave. Nice try, Mom and Dad. I have 5 siblings. I am number 5 out of 6, and 6 and I are Irish twins and troublemakers. The biggest don't tell Mom and Dad things we've done are as follows. We survived a pretty bad car accident 10 years ago. My parents know that there was an accident, and that it happened because my brother was going too fast for the road conditions. They do not know that we rolled down a hill, I was knocked unconscious, had to cut myself out of my seatbelt when I regained consciousness, and he had to break a window for us to escape the car. Paramedics gave us a once-over and we got a ride home from a friend. I took him to Mardi Gras to celebrate his 21st birthday. The original plan was for him to visit me for a week. I lived 300 miles away at this time. We got drunk his first night there and banded together a motley crew to drive to Louisiana with us the next morning. We stayed with a friend in NOLA, got separated on Bourbon Street, and were reunited in the French Quarter, where we indulged in hurricanes, nitrous hits and edibles. We wanted to try acid, and the most comfortable place we knew to take it was at my grandmother's house, where we spent a majority our times as kids. So we dropped and played Scrabble with my grandma as we were coming up, and spent the rest of the night outside in the woods with a bonfire. She thought we were stoned and kept trying to feed us popcorn and cookies. We were both with her when she died 9 years after and reminisced about that night. He's my best friend. My brother is asexual. My dad is one of the macho, Don Draper types who used to chase his secretaries around the desk back in the day, so I always made up a bunch of bullshit stories about all the poontang my bro used to pull in college just to impress the old man. That's some real sibling love right there. No, he said his brother was asexual. That my brother's truck wasn't technically broken in two. He accidentally locked his keys in the truck while shopping at Goodwill for a tie for his interview he was on his way to. So he immediately called the insurance company telling them his car was broken into and was asking if it was covered. They said yes, so he takes the tire iron out of the bed of his truck and smashed his own window in to get his keys. Insurance fixed the window and he got the job. Our parents would drop my older brother and me off at church for Sunday school and services each week. When they drove away, he and I would often sneak off and hang out with friends who lived nearby the church instead. They thought we were learning all about their religion, but we were actually learning about girls instead. Ha, this sounds like my childhood. When I was a kid, my parents didn't have money to put us in summer camp and we weren't quite old enough to be left at home all day. So my parents drove us about 5 miles downtown to drop us off at the Boys and Girls Club where we'd hang out all day. However, that place was boring as shit and always trying to push some religion on us, so pretty much every day, as soon as we signed in and saw Mom drive off, we'd go across the street to the library and read books all day or just walk the 5 miles home and walk back so she could pick us up. Man, it was a different time 30 years ago. I got hit by a snowplow, rather, the snow coming off the plow, while building a snow fort right next to the road. Shot out of the fort and tossed 10 feet away. I still hate plows. That's gotta hurt. I was probably sore the next day but I don't remember the impact hurting. It was a lot of snow and ice flying at my face though. We were always told to stay away from the road and I didn't listen. Got wrecked. Sister and I were once playing with our little brother and throwing him onto our parents' bed. I was holding his feet, she was holding his hands. On the third swing we would let him go flying onto the king-sized waterbed. On one throw, sister was laughing too much and let go of brother's hands right at the bottom of the swing. I ended up swinging him by his feet into the bottom of a bedpost. His head was split open a 1/4 inch or so, bled as head wounds do. We cleaned everything up and convinced him to stop crying by the time that Mom and Dad got home. He was maybe 5 at the time. Half of these are older siblings convincing the baby to do dumb shit. Good to know we all think the same way. I'm the oldest out of all my siblings, trying to convince the younger ones of absolutely absurd nonsense was a part of my job. Mom, don't let your sister ride her bike in the street. Me, but I'm playing basketball at the neighbors. Mom, watch your sister. Me, hey, sister. Did I ever tell you about the big black truck that kidnaps kids who play in the street? No? Well, you're safe on the driveway but definitely do not go in the street. Terror washed over her face. My job was done, I went to go play basketball. That my little sister didn't break her arm by accidentally falling off the bunk bed, but rather that she broke her arm when we flung her off of it during a game of King of the Hill, bunk bed. My parents were out at aerobics class, in a very pre-cell phone age. We just tried to keep her comfortable and waited patiently for them to get home. We did finally tell them last year, and they thought it was hilarious. We kept that secret for close to 30 years. My younger sister went to a party in high school and got blackout drunk. She was staying the night with a friend that night, and her mom brought her home about 2 in the morning. Me and my younger brother carried her into our house to her basement bedroom. I locked her in her room, set my alarm for 6 a.m., and got a few hours of sleep. I got her up the next morning, she was still drunk, snuck her out the back door. She walked about a mile to a gas station, called her friend who came and picked her up. My mom picked her up around noon. When she passed out, she fell and scraped her temple and cheek. My mom questioned her, she claimed she'd gotten in a fight. 30 years later, my mom was reminiscing about that night and the fight. We spilled the beans. My mom was stunned that we got away with it because she was such a light sleeper and I never got away with any kind of deception as a teen. I snuck out of the house a lot when I was in junior high. My mom, not expecting this behavior until high school, never knew. By the time I was in high school, I was sort of overdoing that stuff. When I was 16, we moved to a different house and my bedroom had a sliding glass door to the backyard. My mom teased me about sneaking out. I told her I'd gotten it out of my system in junior high. She was shocked and didn't know what to say. My stepdad laughed so hard. I don't think they know about the time we got into the unwrapped Christmas present stash and looked at all our presents, about a week before Christmas. They never said anything about it, at least. But I felt really guilty about it, especially when it came time to unwrap and I had to fake surprise. Never wanted to get into the Christmas stash again after that. At one point, we were playing with our pet lizard outside and he ran away, so we panicked and went off to the pet store to replace him before the parents got home. We confessed that one to them after a few days, mostly because the replacement was pretty obviously a different lizard. They responded with, "Oh, okay. We honestly wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't replaced him. Why would we care if you have 3 lizards or 4? One year my parents got my brother and I a Super Nintendo that came with A Link to the Past. We found it downstairs in the crawl space. We unwrapped it and played it all night on Christmas Eve and then put it all back in the box and rewrapped it. They never knew." I have a story based on the opposite. My parents and I had a secret we kept from my brother. He lied to my parents a lot and had a tendency to do whatever he wanted regardless of the consequences. So, my parents had that family locator plan so they could track him. Basically, they could see him as a little pink dot on a map. It was actually a good thing that they had it, as they were able to find him after he left a party one night with a concussion. Somehow, my brother never knew. Eventually, my parents forgot about the locator when my brother was in college, but they still had it until one of my brother's best friends, still not sure why my parents told him about it, informed my brother that he was nothing more than a pink dot to my parents. Good times. My mom collects these painted plates and hangs them up around the house. There is one plate with this creepy old man and lady on it that for some reason my mom really loved but me and my brothers and sister hated, and she knew how much we disliked it. Well, one day mom come home to see her beloved plate on the floor in pieces. She sent each of us to our rooms and interrogated us individually. Each one of us gave the exact same answer: "I don't know, it was like that when we got home from school, it must have fell on its own." She was pissed off and we had our TV privileges taken away for a couple of days because we were obviously all lying, but we never had to see that damn dish again. Now we all know exactly how that plate came to be destroyed, and every now and then my mom will still ask, but the answer is always the same: "I don't know, it was like that when we got home from school, it must have fell on its own." It's been 15 years and it will be a secret we take to our graves. My little brother, 9, and me, 11, once left our cat out in a blizzard for 3 days. He accidentally got out and we could never find him. My parents were both stuck at our grandmother's because of the blizzard while him and me were stuck at home. On the 3rd night we heard a howling from the back porch. We go downstairs to see a howling, wet, shivering cat on our back porch. We didn't even recognize him at first. Eventually we let him in, washed him in our bathtub, dried him off and Skyped a friend of my dad's who happened to be a vet. He was fine. Parents never found out from me, my brother, or the family friend. I drove my brother and sister to school when I was in high school back in the mid-80s. One morning, it had been raining all night and all morning. My sister asked me to pull my car across the yard and up to the front door so she wouldn't get wet. We had a huge yard, over an acre. I got stuck in the land barge I was driving, a 1972 Monte Carlo, cutting 2 deep trenches 100 feet long across the yard to the front door. Absolutely murdered the yard. My dad would get so pissed if we ever drove on the grass. No, we didn't have a nice yard, he was just an angry drunk, so I had to fix it, fast. When we got home from school in the afternoon, my brother and I collected pine cones and pine needles from all over the yard and covered up the evidence. It was so obvious, but my dad stayed drunk and didn't immediately notice. The next spring, he saw the trench and thought he did it. He died a few years back, not sure we ever told him. Told my mom a few years ago, she laughed. My mother purchased a TV that could be locked with a pin and she did. My brother and I figured it out though, as it was very easy, 4,321. However, after a few weeks she caught on to it since the TV was warm when she got home. So she changed the pin to something complicated. However, a few days later we distracted her while she entered the pin for us and watched what buttons she pressed. From now on we put a fan next to the TV to keep it cool, and we also ran our fingers across the screen to remove static charge when she got home. Worked for years and years. Pretty much all of our online activity from age 12 onwards was kept secret from our parents. Our house had a fairly strict no online activity rule, and my brother and I, being children with little else to do, we broke it extensively. When we were 12, we weren't very careful, and the parents caught us playing video games a few times. After the last time, which caused a huge fight, we became much more secretive, Keeping our internet use hidden was one of the reasons we founded our secret spy organization. Since then, the parents have caught us once or twice, but never at anything major. Our secrecy can't take all the credit, though. They are not very hard to fool. Once my mom came into the room when I was watching YouTube, suspected I was doing something online, and demanded I show her the computer. I had, like an idiot, closed the laptop without shutting down my tabs, so there was no way I could show her without showing her what I was watching. With that in mind, without saying a word, I got up, took my computer, and walked out of the room. Never heard another word about it. Still not entirely sure how that one worked out. It had snowed and me and my sister were walking to school. Our road was really icy and steep, so I decided to do a neat little skid. No worries, bit shaky but a decent slide. Now my sister tried. Except she lost her balance, windmilled her arms and punched me straight in the face. Blood on the ice from my bleeding nose. So we left the house and walked back home within 5 minutes with me covered in blood. Just told Mom that I'd slipped and fallen, so we both got the day off. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button and comment below letting me know. It helps the channel and lets me create more content just like this. If you do like this type of content, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload.